Thank you, Representative Corbett, and indeed it is a pleasure to be able to be here with everyone that's come tonight and to experience the first Patchwork Symposium about the journey of many who have experienced the textile artistic expressions of Seminole patchwork. And indeed, everyone has stories of how they came about learning the technique of Seminole patchwork. There's always, some differences over the years and new developments in the area of expressions of what we would call designs. I mean, even among the Florida Seminoles, you have seen in the last 25 years new designs that have come about. So we welcome each and every one of you. The facilities are over to my right if you've never been here to the renovated area, which is now the home to the Older American Program, Senior Citizen Center here, where they eat every day at noontime or just before noon, and then breakfast on Fridays, Friday morning. So if you're in the area and within those times, come and visit and have a meal with them. They would appreciate you stopping by. So once again, thank you for coming, and let's give an applause to the Arts and Culture Committee, who is comprised of Ann Borba, who is on the Tribal Council, DJ Maura Kozer, who is also on the committee, and I believe Tiffany Thunder, she's not here tonight. She's traveling at this moment, but I know they had a meeting probably about a month and a half ago, or about a month ago, and they began to discuss, having such a forum as this. And I think it's wonderful. I think the exchange of ideas, the exchange of the journeys that each one of the presenters are going to present tonight will be not only interesting, but it will be a delight. And I thank our communications director, Mr. Mark Williams, for being here to also film this. So I'm sure that it will be on YouTube as well. So make sure that you pan the camera over the audience. Okay. God bless each and every one of you.
Eşek, Seminole, Idola, Umlaquakin, Alaya, Sajal Fishkis, Genesis Tallahassee, Joseph Gados, Tallahassee Idola, Fish Logidoas, Hiawat Miss Seminole Nation of Oklahoma Doas, Madel Hanum Chief Jaflees. Hello, good evening. I'm happy to be here on behalf of the Seminole Nation of Oklahoma. My name is Genesis Tallahassee, my band is Tallahassee, and I belong to the Bird Clan. I am the current Miss Seminole Nation of Oklahoma. Thank you for giving me this time to speak. I will see all of you again.
Hitche, Mahidos, Olivia Wapskini, Georgia Kudos, Heoat, Junior Miss Seminole Nation of Oklahoma Doy, Ochizi Amidodos, Nagoji Ameligidos. Heoat, I already said that, I'm so sorry. But hello, how are you guys doing today? It's good you all come. My name is Olivia Wapskini, and I'm the current Junior Miss Seminole Nation of Oklahoma. I'm a cheesy band, and I am Bears Clinton. Thank you. Mado.
Hinche Songo, Tejon Shachapiros, Estejari, Hijika, Hidozidos, Malegida, Nogozagidos, Mikisuki Bagidos, Hewa, Little Miss Seminole Nation of Oklahoma, Madam. Hello, how's everyone doing today? My name is Taya Jones, and I'm a descendant of the Bear Clan, and I'm also a member of the Miccosukee Band, and I'm the current Little Miss Seminole Nation of Oklahoma, Madam.
Let's give our princess a big hand. We are so honored tonight to have these wonderful artists in front of us. They have a story to tell, just like we all have stories to tell. And it is in our tradition to share our stories with our families and friends. I don't know if this is done that much in some families, but we need to try to keep our traditions as alive as we can. But I would like to welcome our honored speakers and guests tonight. Thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule to come and join us tonight for our first Patchwork Symposium. And our first speaker is going to be Sheila Little Harjo. Let's give her a hand again.
Good evening, everyone. I really don't need a mic. I think I'm loud enough. But it's good to see everybody here. And it's wonderful to see everybody wearing their patchwork clothing. As Ann said, this is their first event as Arts and Crafts Committee, and I'd like to thank them for hosting this for us. It gives us a way of sharing and showing our future generations that we're still alive and the artwork of the Seminole patchwork is still going here in Oklahoma. I want to introduce myself first, and I'll tell you a couple of little stories. I am Sheila Little Harjo. I am a daughter of the Wayne clan, member of the Hajiti band. As most of you know your history, the bands were actually different tribes that came out of Florida that gathered in Florida and was shifted to Oklahoma. My band, my tribe was the Hajiti. So when I tell somebody I'm Hajiti and I'm Seminole second, that's why, because that's who I identify as. I identify as Hajiti. The dress that I'm wearing tonight is my inspiration. And I'll tell you a little bit about that, but as you look, I want you to know this dress is made in 1971 by my Aunt Helen Miller. It was made for my sister Dixie, who's sitting in the back, when she ran from the Seminole Nation in 1971. So you know that was one of the early times we actually had the Princess Pageant, and Shirley Walker was a part of that. And she may actually know when the first one was actually held. Do you know, Shirley? I don't know about that. But anyway, this shows you that, you know, as early in 69? Okay. So in 1969 was the first time the Seminole Nation actually had a pageant where the women could wear their traditional clothing. They wore them at other places, the stomp dances, and any place else that they gathered, they actually wore their clothing. A little bit more about me is I've been doing patchwork for about 30 plus years. Some of my awards and credits is I won awards at the Cherokee Nation Art Market, Chickasaw Nation Art Market, Santa Fe Indian Art Market, 5 Civilized Tribes Museum is all places I've entered my patchwork and won awards. My most recent one is this dress here. I entered this one in the 5 Tribes Museum and won first place. It's a contemporary style. I made it to let people know that as a business person, you're going someplace else, you can still be proud to wear our clothing and look nice and professional. So that's what this whole outfit is about. You can look at the back even. It matches the front of the dress. I constructed the jacket, the dress, and the belt. And I've accented it with a very dear piece of jewelry that was given to me by Miss Ella Coleman when my husband left office. She told me I earned every bead in that thing as the wife of the chief. And tell you what, I agree. But some of the other things I've done, I'm sure all of y'all heard of Reservation Dogs. Some of my patchwork clothing was on there. I was a costume creator for Independent Film Festival at Sundance that was written by a young woman and produced in the Sundance Film Festival, and I was the costume creator there. I worked with Gary France. Many of y'all don't know him. He's an artist as well. He wrote a book about Seminole patchwork, and he consulted and took pictures of some of the stuff, and I was, worked as an advisor with him. I've also worked as an advisor with the man's name was Dominic Jones. He was the creative director, filmmaker for Creative Technologies for Kravis Discovery Center in the United Kingdom. So this tell you that our patchwork is even overseas in the United Kingdom. They're telling our stories, not just the Florida Seminoles, but the Oklahoma Seminoles, because we all come from one people. Our patchwork is different. We're art. You hear it say artists, and that's what we are. Our patchwork resembles each other's, but each individual person here is an artist. They put their own flair onto their patchwork. It's not what Grandma made. It's not what my Aunt Helen Miller made. but it's ours. It's our expression of ourselves and our artwork. So when you hear somebody saying it came from Florida, well, yeah, it did. But so did a lot of other stuff, and this is ours. This is my patchwork. This is Sheena Logan's, and et cetera on down here. And speaking of Sheena Logan, I'm so proud to see her here. Another young lady I seen walk in, Jaylee Lowe, is an aspiring young patchwork person herself. I worked with them when they were little girls. I made them dresses. And I feel so honored to see them carrying on that tradition and working and doing what they know how to do with our patchwork to keep this generation alive and well. You know, when I learned patchwork, I was fortunate enough to ask people, but to start off, I didn't. Again, this is my inspiration dress. It was made by my Aunt Helen Miller. And after my sister wore it, I studied this dress. I looked at it and I looked at it and I thought, I can do that, I wanna make that. And I tried. Let me tell you what, my first attempt at patchwork was hilarious. Because I thought we cut every little piece separately, not strips, but each piece here was a separate piece cut. So I cut all these pieces out and I sat there at that sewing machine and sewn them one by one just to get one little strip here, not to mention the entire band. I finished that, I made a jacket, I finished it, but I put it down, I said, never again. And then I ran across a couple of people that I was fortunate to know, Miss June Lee, I think everybody knows her work. And I was asking her, and she laughed at me, she said, oh, no, this is how you do it. So she showed me how to do it. And I'm forever thankful for Miss Lee for showing me how to make the patchwork and making it easier for me. But for 30 years, I've been sewing, and I still ask and receive help from different patchwork artists. Patty Yeager, who we're going to hear about, she was really good about sharing things for me. When I asked how to make the sweet potato plan, because June Lee showed me and I couldn't get it, nothing turned out right. So I asked Patty to show me, and she did a step-by-step instruction, piece of patchwork fabric, and showed me how to do it. I succeeded in making that plan design. And I'm forever grateful for that. And different ones here, even Sheena, I'll ask her, Sheena, how are you doing that? Is it different? Can you make it easier? And I'll ask everybody, and that's the beauty of the patchwork, is that we do share what we know. Everybody here, everybody I know that makes patchwork is more than proud to share and help. We're not good teachers, some of us not. You know, I can show you that, well, I'm not much of a teacher because I expect you to get it done right then. And I know that, so I try to patient myself and temper myself back. But, you know, I've got pictures here of some of my work. I've made patchwork for different artists, John Anderson, Aaron Tipton, Mark Chestnut, Saginaw Grant. I don't know if y'all know who Saginaw Grant was, but he was a Sac and Fox elder that was working a lot of movies. So what was so funny, he came up to me at Sac and Fox powwow really early on, and he said, do you know who I am? I said, no. But I took it upon myself to learn who he was. And after that, when he got the vest that I made for him, I was so proud that I was able to say, Mr. Grant wears my vest. Mr. Anderson wears my work. So we are proud when we see somebody wearing our clothes. At Chief Jerry Hayden's funeral this week, I seen several of my vests being worn at the funeral. I seen dresses that I have made. And there's nothing that is more heartwarming and an honor than to see somebody wearing something that you made for them. And you know they loved it as much as you poured the love into it. Because guarantee you have to love the patchwork to sew it. We all laugh, say it's got blood, sweat, and tears. Believe me, it does. I have this figure here had 22 stitches in it from the rotary knife. And what was so funny about that is My sister-in-law, my mother was there. My sister-in-law jumped up and started trying to clean the carpet. My mother grabbed the fabric and started washing out the fabric. They just left me. My husband finally came in there, he said, well, I guess I'm ready to take you to the hospital. But, you know, that's how things were. There was more, you know, it was that hard work, that fabric. We didn't want to get it messed up with blood. But anyway, I'm gonna close with this. And if you have any questions, I've got pictures here. I've got a couple of skirts here with the clan designs, which is the deer clan here. And this one is a version of the bear clan. And I'm open to any questions. If I can show you anything, I'd be more than happy to. And turn it over to the next person. Thank you.
All right, let's give our clap. Thank you.
Ms. Sheena Logan.
Hi, as she said, my name is Sheena. My maiden name is actually Little, so yes, we're cousins. My married name is Logan, of course. I just feel honored to even be included with this group of ladies here. I've only been sewing for, I think, almost 7 years now, so I still feel like a baby to them, you know? Like, I don't have all that years of experience. My band is Ochizi, and I'm the daughter of the Akahachebi clan. As you, I think it's on the skirt. Yeah, still there. So kind of similar to her, my inspiration, actually, I wore my inspiration skirt. I made this in honor of my grandma. Unfortunately, I didn't start sewing until after she had passed away, so I really wish that I had started sewing before that happened, because she always wanted one of us to sew, like one of her granddaughters. What else would I say?
Tell us about your awards.
I won, my first award happened in 2021, I believe, is when I first entered a competition. Because up until then, like, I didn't feel like I was good enough to sell things, and so my husband actually pushed me to it. So I'll back up, actually. The reason I started sewing is because I really wanted a skirt from Florida. There's a certain skirt artist from Florida that I wanted a skirt from. And so my husband thought it would be cheaper if I just sewed myself one than buying a skirt from Florida. Little did he know he was very wrong. But he is my biggest supporter. He buys me fabric. He just recently bought me my 3rd sewing machine, so shout out to him. So he actually pushed me to enter my first competition, which was with the Chickasaws. And it was during COVID, so it was virtual, but I ended up winning, so I don't think y'all were in that year, though. No, I've not beat them. I came in 2nd and 3rd, but like one day. Excuse my baby, I think she's hungry.
And the name of your company.
So I am, Cheeky Chic is what I work from. It's my business page. Yeah, my husband came up with that. I think you have one of my skirts, right? Yeah, Junior Miss owns one of my skirts, actually. So just like Sheila said, like, it really is a full circle moment when you see somebody wearing your stuff. Like, all patchwork artists are different. Like, we're similar, but we're different. And each artist can recognize their work, as I'm sure y'all all agree. Like, you can spot it out, who made what. But yeah, I love to sew once you start, you just can't stop. I just love when you finish something and it comes right off of your sewing machine and it's done, and you just look at it, reflect, and you're just like, wow, I made that. That's my favorite part about it. So I won, you said I came in 2nd place, 3rd place, judges award, judges favorite over the years. I'm a little bit more contemporary versus old school. I like to work with lace. I love doing overlay. I love shiny material. I I'm still trying to figure out a jacket though, so it's coming, it's coming. I don't really have much more to say.
Let's give her a hand.
I'm ready.
So our next person to speak is Stephanie Lambert in honor of her mother, Patricia Yeager.
Hi, I'm Stephanie Lambert, like she said. It is a tremendous honor to be here and to speak about my mom and her patchwork, because I think that it is one of the, it's one of the things that we learned from when we were really, really little, and it's something that I wish I would have paid attention to more as I was growing up. I'm going to just, so when my mom, my mom loved teaching patchwork. She loved to share her knowledge, and like Sheila had said, and Cynthia used to sit with mom for hours and work with my mom on patchwork, and my mom she would teach anybody that would give her their time. And my mom was a Seminole tribal member, just like me, and her name was Patricia Yeager, and my name is Stephanie Yeager, Stephanie Lambert now. And she was a wolf. So my grandfather was Jack Wolf, and she was raised at Gar Creek Ceremonial Ground. And she did patchwork from the time she was a very young child. In this article that says that she was 8 years old until she was 13. When she was 14, they gave her a sewing machine for her birthday, and after that it was history. She did patchwork for as long as I can remember. And I remember when I think I was probably in the 4th or 5th grade, our art teacher said she wanted to do a session on patchwork because there were so many Seminole kids in our class. And so she said, hey, Stephanie, do you think your mom would help us out a little bit? And so I was like, I don't know. I asked, and I was kind of like almost ashamed because I was like, oh my gosh, you want my mom to come up here? And so she came up, and they talked for a while, and they sit and then after that I was like, oh, so she started showing us all these different patterns and how to make it. And what we started doing was we were cutting strips of construction paper and gluing it together. And we were gluing strips of construction paper together, and then we cut it. And then later on, as I was growing up and asking questions, she would make me to go back to the construction paper rather than actually rending her fabric, because the fabric was a big deal, like Sheila had mentioned. But after she passed away in April, I was going through her stuff, and she had made tubs and tubs and tubs of patchwork, and most of them were just pieces. There's probably about 6 or 7 2 to 3 yard strips that are left. And I probably should be very quiet because people might want it. But most of them are just leftover pieces. And last year at Christmas, I took a lot of these leftover pieces and made my nephew and niece a quilt for them for Christmas. And it was, it's a treasure for them. And took a picture with my mom and my niece and nephew. And I hope to do that again for my 2 sons and maybe the other grandkids that might want one, as we have enough of her patchwork to make as many as possible. Like they said, she loved to share her skills. She taught classes at the Seminole Nation. She taught classes at Seminole State College, and she taught some in Shawnee at Shawnee High School at different times. She won patchwork competitions here for traditional and those type of competitions at Seminole Nation Days, but she didn't really enter too much. Now she did make some patchwork for some of our artists at Seminole Nation Days, but and I can't remember all the names of them, but one of the things that she was the most proud of was her nephew, Siobhan Colonel, who is he's her nephew. He's my on the wolf side. He's my 3rd cousin. But she made him 3 jackets, and he traveled all around the world and took pictures in front of different places around the world with those jackets on. And that was like one of those things that she would always say, "Hey, look, Siobhan," and we called him Eddie because we called him Eddie Monster because he looked like Eddie Monster when he was a little kid. And so she'd say, "Well, like Eddie's in Japan." Eddie's in Europe, Eddie's in England. And so that was one of her, her claims to fame was. And then she absolutely adored it, to make stuff for Abigail when she was princess. So, and that was one of the things that she wanted, when she made stuff for her family, she wanted it to mean something. And so she would put her heart into it, and everything was actually telling a story. This one right here was one of the ones that she made for Abigail when she was a princess. And at the bottom, it's a Seminole chickpea, because that's where Patchwork came from, was Florida, and she wanted to put that chickpea as a representation of where we came from, because she did not want us to forget that. The next one is the wing clan, which is our clan. And the one right above that is the bird clan, which is my father's clan. And this one right up here is two brothers, because Abigail has two brothers. And up here is the bird on the little cake that she made for her. And Abigail was 9 years old. And during the time that Abigail was princess, we called her Abby, of course, all the time. Well, now I totally forgot her name. I told you guys that. Accidentally called her Abilee. And she thought that that's why we called her Abby, was because her name was Abilee. And I was like, and I kind of thought it was kind of funny. She's like, well, it fits just fine. She's like, I'm going to keep calling her that. And so, and Abilee is smiles, or the one that smiles a lot. And if you guys know my daughter Abigail, it's like, even when she's upset and she's sad, she smiles. And so after my mom passed away, and I don't want to cry, but I probably will. It's still new. I wanted to honor her and honor the legacy that she left behind. So I made this skirt, and I made sure that it meant something. The bottom is the wind, and the top is the happy path. And then if you look at the skirt really closely, there's little bitty bees on it for a bee. Because also my sister had given us this painting one time, and it said, if you want to be happy, be. And it had a bee on it. And so, and I know that is the one thing that my mom would have loved more than me, is to know that her traditions were being carried on, not only just through us, but through all of you guys. Because I look out and I see so many of you guys that attended her classes, that have worn her stuff, and she's made more. These are some of just a few of the things that she made for us. This is another one that she made for Abigail, and during the time that she was princess, and it's of course shiny, because of course princesses love shiny things. And this was another one, and this one right here, it is hard. There's like so many different pieces in there, and I started one, and I couldn't get them to line up, and they're so tiny, and I gave up. And so I am still learning, and I was so, after she passed away, and I was just like, I was going to finish a project that she was doing for somebody else, and I was going through this stuff, and I kind of got frustrated, and I was about to break down and cry, and I said, Mom, how did you line this stuff up? And as I started to, and I was like, so as I started to do it, I found these baggies all over the place. I mean, tons of these little baggies. And inside the baggies were these little pieces. And they're straight pinned together, and they're straight pinned in order of how to make it and how to do that specific patchwork. And so there was one in there that I was able to finish up the project that she started, because she showed step by step on how to get it lined up and how she specifically lined those things up. And I was like, thank you. But so I knew that she was ready to go. She was in dialysis for 6 years, and so but like looking at things like this, she was preparing, and she wanted to make sure that the culture was carried on. And one of the things that I was looking at when I was going through her stuff, there's books and notes and patchwork on the back, a grocery list, so she was constantly thinking patchwork. One of the things that she says here in this little article that I don't know how many of you guys came. I've seen several faces that look familiar that came to this class specifically. That was at the Grissom Mansion, and at first it started off I think in the pool house, and then it got too big, so we had to move it to the annex, and we had all these sewing machines out there and all this patchwork lined up on all these tables. And I think at one time there were 22 people in that patchwork class learning patchwork. And I think for her, that was probably one of her most proudest moments was seeing all the people that wanted to learn patchwork. And in this book, it says, Seminole patchwork is our heritage, and it's a privilege to teach anyone with a desire to learn. And so if you want to learn, I'm pretty sure that any of us will sit with you and teach you. And as I'm learning, I've been sewing for, I probably made this dress way over here. So the first skirt I ever made. And for the longest time, I only did wing clan. My dad goes, it's a good thing when did your clan, because it's the only thing you know how to make. And the second thing I ever made was bear clan. And that was from my friend Dana. That was only like a year and a half ago. And but then whenever I made the happy path, that was like my first stretch out beyond wind and bear. And then I've tried to do this one right here, and I probably won't do that for probably several years after I learned how to do something like this here first. So, but that is my mom, and that's how I learned patchwork, was through her and watching her. And my grandmother used to do that, and that's one of the things is just embrace the things that you have. Because one of the things, and it's like when I was a kid and we were getting Christmas presents, I got a purse from my grandma, and I was like, oh, this is great. And then I got a stereo from my other grandma, and I was like, oh, this is great, I got a stereo. And the purse went on the counter, and the stereo got played real loud, and the purse sat on the counter for a while. And then later on, when I got married, I got an apron, and I should have brought it with me, but I didn't, from my grandmother. And then I got money from a lot of people, and now that apron is one of my most treasured possessions. I don't wear it because it's what my grandmother made for me. And one of the saddest things that happened is I found one of the, like I said, you know your parents' work, you know everybody's work. I could go out and like looking at patchwork, and I could go to an event and go, is that Patty Yeager? And they're like, I don't know. So-and-so gave this to me. Or, and so usually I'm like, that looks like my mom's work, or, but I went to an antique store, and I found a vest in the antique store. And I looked at it, and I was like, that looks like my mom's work. And so I picked it up. And so I texted my mom a picture of it, and I said, hey, Mom, is this your work? And she said, yeah, I made that for so-and-so. I gave it to him as a gift. And I was just like, and so I didn't tell her where it was. I said, well, I've got it now. And Gabriel told me, he said, buy that right now, whatever it is, I'll pay you back. And Gabriel's my son, and this shirt was for him. And he, and so, that was one of the, to me, it broke my heart that she made something as a gift to somebody, and it ended up in a store, and it ended up, so it had changed hands several times before it ended up in the antique store. But I was so happy to have it back at the same time. And I think it was God's little way of blessing me with something of hers. And so Gabriel still wears that vest around. But that is all I have to say. Thank you.
Our next person to speak is Miss Ella Coleman.
Hello. First of all, I thank the Arts and Crafts Board for inviting me. I feel very honored to be here with you all and among the artisans here. I have not sewn any patchwork for maybe close to 15 years for health reasons. And but what I wanted to start out with is this, to add a little bit of information to what you said about the Florida Seminoles. I had this book that I got at the Seminole Nation Museum in Welcome a long time ago when I first started doing patchwork. This book has a lot of good information about the patchwork, the long shirt, the beadwork, the gorgets, everything that the Seminole people have. It is a historical book, and it goes by detail. And Dorothy Downs is the lady that had written this book, and I had the opportunity to meet her whenever I was in New Mexico. But what I wanted to add to what Ms. Dedrick had already told you is this, that coming out of this book, it said that the technique, the patchwork technique, began shortly after World War I because it was developed by the Miccosukee-speaking Indian women. Because during World War I, and we were fighting Germany, we weren't importing anything from Germany. And the ladies living in southern Florida, they liked the calico, and they liked the gingham, and they couldn't get that. So being the creative women that we are, it is just innate that we're creative. That they decided that they would use the colored materials that they had, the little scraps, to start sewing those together. And the northern Seminoles that live near, the Muskogee-speaking Seminoles that live near Lake Okeechobee, it was about 1930 or so before they started the patchwork technique. And it is stated here in this book, do your research. And now let's take a step back, Father. Before Andrew Jackson signed the Indian Removal Act of 1830, we Ogeesees, I'm a member of the Ogeesee band, Hickory Leaf band, my clan is dear, that we lived in the heart of Georgia, near what Macon, Georgia is today. And that we lived near the Ocmulgee River. And so we had different types of climate. So we wore animal skin and animal fur. But as Andrew Jackson's military moved us further southward and then westward, and the change in the temperatures, and then our trade with the colonists, that is when we started buying fabric, trading for fabric, and making our clothing. What I wanted to share with you is this, that what I have on, I make this with the assistance of a friend of mine to make the back, because the back has the big ruffle on it. That's just my take on it, because when you see pictures of Billy Bowlace's wife, she always had her arm like this across her stomach because their blouses were short. I mean, it was higher and it's just below their breast. And I don't wear my blouses that short. And I wanted to, in the ruffle, I wanted to do something a little different. We didn't know what the back looked like, okay? So I decided to make the V-neck. This was a little difficult for me to make, but I had to get the assistance of my friend Della Bradshaw, and she helped me out with that. But I decided to show you all like an evolution of the patchwork. This was the beginning. This is like what we were wearing when we were relocated here from our homeland. And there's a story behind the strips that we have too. Because when some of our people, like when the young men and the adult men were on a hunting party, and they left the elders and the children and the mothers at the encampment, they had lookouts, and these little boys were lookouts for the military. And so this little boy come running to the encampment, And he told him, he warned the elder that was there, the elder man. He said, they're coming. He said, they're not too far from here. So everybody had already had known the designated area that they would go to hide. And so everybody went and hid. And when the soldiers got there, they burned everything that they had. The clothing, the home, everything. So when it was time for them to come out, and the elder man gave the signal, and it was quite a while after they left that he called them. And so everybody started looking around, sifting through the debris to see what they could find, find what little belongings that they had. And so the elder man, he picked up a small strip of fabric, and he said, you see this fabric here? He said, I want you all to find a piece of fabric that you may have as it remains from your clothing that you may have had. So they started sifting, people started finding little strips. He said, okay, what I want you to do, I want you to sew this to the bottom of your skirt and bottom of the men's shirt. And I want you to remember this day. This is a remembrance of our survival. This is our survival story. So eventually those smoky strips of fabric evolved into the strips that we have today. That's what these strips of ribbon, that's what they represent. So I want y'all to remember this and tell your children, grandchildren, and others that may not know this story. But this story was told by Sally Larney, who is the late Jimmy Ross's mother, and her niece, Beth Yeager Coker, who is my relative by marriage and member of our OGC band, shared this story with me. And I'm forever thankful to her for sharing this with me, because this is part of our history, our oral history, that we need to pass on and always remember. We always need to know as to what part of our regalia that we're wearing may represent something in history, just like the strip. So I just wanted to share that with y'all tonight. Now, what I've done is, whenever I was living in Washington, D.C., I used to go to all the Smithsonian museums, and I went to the Natural History Museum. This was before the American Indian Museum came about. And I saw this Seminole dress, skirt, and blouse. And from memory, I made the skirt. And I had hoped at some point to put the cards on here, but I haven't done that. But then I used 2 rows of the coins here. And that was the next evolution of our dress. The coins, the ladies got that from the Spaniards. We're always evolving, adapting, and trying to fit in, so to speak. But also too, we're unique, and so it doesn't represent money at all. It was just something glittery and that's decorative that they used. So I just wanted to share that with you. Thank you. And then this next one. This is the outfit that my mentor, my late friend, June Lee, made for me whenever I came back from Washington, D.C. area in 2006. And this is the bear clan, this is the deer head, the flying bird, and the deer hooves. Since I'm deer fan, I should make sure I have quite a bit of deer in my skirt. And then this is applique. In the early days with applique, and it's not patchwork. No. Thank you. And Andrew Harjo was integral in bringing the patchwork to Oklahoma. I know there were other people that were responsible for that too, But Andrew was not only a cold talker and a concert pianist that was known internationally, played the Fort Czar of Russia, King and Queen of England, and the Kennedy family, but he also was an educator. And he taught school on the reservations there in Florida. And they taught him how the patchwork technique. And so, based upon what he learned and some of the samples that he brought back with him from there, he started showing our communities. He was very open and wanted to teach us the patchwork technique. So Andrew was integral in bringing this to Seminole County. And I would visit with him quite often whenever I come home. And he had developed a book that had the patchwork, the samples, like what Stephanie was showing a while ago, that he had samples. It was a big old thick book, looked like our Seminole Nation budget book or something. But anyhow, he had them all labeled, and the first one got stolen from his house. So he made a second one, and that got stolen. So he told me, he said, "Sister, I'm not going to do that again." He said, "I'm not going to let somebody else, take my knowledge and use it without my permission." So anyhow, it was in 1982 whenever I was introduced to June Lee. My cousin Marie Jones introduced me to her. And the rest is history from there. Back in the early 80s, I was heavy into arts and crafts. I did macrame, I did decoupage, I did ceramics, and all of that. And I already knew how to make quilts. I learned from my mother and grandmother. And so June and Marie took me under their wings and taught me the patchwork design, the technique. And that opened a brand new world to me. I was a contract negotiator at Tinker Air Force Base. And I was having to travel out of state to negotiate some of these contracts on site. It was for our aircraft fighters, engines and parts and what have you back east in Connecticut, Indianapolis. And so it just really got busy for me. And I had to put my patchwork aside. No, I just couldn't keep that up and keep up my day job. And this t-shirt here, my brother Gary, y'all know him as Sonny Cole, him and his wife sell patchwork during Nation Days. He sells the embroidered the Everlasting Fire caps. But this is one that I had made for him with deer clan. And this is about the size of the patchwork I used to like to make. And the next one, this, okay, yeah, thank you. This is what I made for my dear late husband, Al Coleman. Back in 2004, before we moved back, Joy Parjo, who is a well-known playwright, author, poet laureate, had asked me to make her a skirt with patchwork and a long blouse and long sleeve, V-neck, round neck, and she wanted the skirt to flare out and the patchwork design at the bottom. But she wanted me to make it out of satin. Oh my God. I had never used satin before, and I have never used it since. That was quite a challenge for me, because satin, as you may know, those of y'all that sew, it crawls. And you can't make mistakes, especially when you're making patchwork. And This strip here was a leftover from Joy's strip. And so so I spent all my time making Joy's skirt and blouse, which ended up on one of her poetry books. Unfortunately, it wasn't in color, but it's the bright red that's on this patchwork design, and it's there in the bottom. But anyhow, I asked my husband, he had this black linen shirt, and I said, Al, I said, I'm sorry, I haven't had a chance to make your shirt. I said, can I make you an Indian shirt out of your black linen shirt? He said, sure, have at it. So what I did was I used red ribbon around the collar and around the edging of the patchwork, bordered it, and then I had some Indian head nickel tie tacks and put them here at the tip of the collar, and then trim the cuffs with ribbon. Voila, you got an Indian shirt. So you don't have to make a shirt from scratch. Let the person pick out the shirt they want, and then you can decorate it with your patchwork. Make it easy on yourself. This year, I was able to find a couple of pictures, and I had Seminole Press enlarge them for me. These are pictures of my work. One is that I believe I was the first one to introduce the shawls, the dance shawls, the patchwork design back in 1983, 84. There it is right here on top. I used the wider, the bigger designs. And there was a nurse that worked at Indian Health Service in Shawnee, and her name was Louetta Walker. Really nice nurse. She was sacrificed. I got acquainted with her through my mother, and she taught me how to tie shawls, double tie, make the diamond design. So I used to make all of mine, 80% of my shawls with the diamond design ties. And I made 25 of these and took them with me, along with some other contemporary work that I had done, to the San Ildefonso, 8 Northern Indian Pueblo Arts and Crafts Show in New Mexico. And I sold out. But I really shouldn't say sold, because I traded too. You know how cities like to trade? And I had a couple of gentlemen come by, and one of them said, "You want to trade?" I said, "What would you like?" He said, "I want that pink shawl there with the turquoise fringes for my daughter-in-law." I said, "What do you have to trade then?" He said, "Come over here to my table and I'll show you." Oh my gosh, I was like a kid in a candy store. He was a San Domingo Pueblo, and all of that jewelry on that table, I didn't know which one to get, And so I got a necklace that they would drill holes in and have different colors, and I think it's about 3 strands and matching earrings. And I thought I turned this off, I'm sorry. But anyhow, I got a necklace, I got some pottery, I got a Kachina doll, and on and on, I just went shopping. So I think I just paid for my travel with the money, but the rest of it I traded. And then as a result of that arts and crafts show, I had been invited to the Wheelwright Museum to participate in their fashion show. And so that was a big honor for me. And so that following, I think it was in September, is when the fashion show was. We had a lot of fun. And I have a picture of the 2 ladies. They were part of the models, and they were modeling my ribbon shirts and the skirts and the shawls and everything. And I had some bolero hats, hat bands, belts, I just did all kinds of accessories, all contemporary work. And I had a lot of fun with that. Excuse me for turning my back on y'all. I wanted to just give y'all an idea of some of the other shows that I had been to. The Northern Indian Pueblo, the 11th and annual in July of '83, and then July of '84, the same arts and crafts. I was part of the Oklahoma Federation of Indian Women, 1984, Miss Indian Oklahoma pageant, and Miss Leslie Vericello, who's now Leslie Beer, became our Miss Indian Oklahoma, and I gave her one of my shawls. It had the family design on it, this turquoise shawl, and she told me one day, I think it was last year sometimes, that she still had that shawl I gave her. Made me happy, put a smile on my face. Because that was years ago, '84. And then the Gilcrease Museum, Tulsa, in May of '84, the Native American Fashion Show. And I placed first place with my shawl at the 8 Northern Pueblo, their annual arts and crafts. Went to the Indian Women's Federation, Oklahoma Federation of Indian Women, Indian Summer Fashion Show. And there were other designers there. Y'all remember the Five Sisters from Henrietta? And they were called Five's Collection. Georgia and Robinson. Yeah, they were all part of it too. And then also made patchwork designs for a business called Buffalo Sun up in Osage Country. They liked my patchwork strips, and so I'd sell them. They put them on their clothing and sell those. It's really been a good journey, with patchwork. What I loved about making patchwork was meeting people, meeting other tribes and our people too, and talking about the patterns or the colors. My favorite colors to work with is this color. I like the fuchsias and the lavenders and the purple, kind of like Sheena does, and Sheila. It's relaxing. It's not all about money. It's knowing that you are creating something, you're putting your spirit in it, and you're giving a good spirit away to somebody that appreciates your work. And that, like Sheila said, it pleases you to see somebody wearing what you have made. And that's the biggest compliment. Somebody copies you too, and that's a big compliment right there. But anyhow, I just hope you young ladies continue on your journey with your patchwork, and you will have your stories to tell too, to your kids. And I'm sure that you all know people that make patchwork. Just like my earrings here was made by Ina Gonzalez. And she's sitting right over there, and she makes patchwork. And the elder that I mentioned a while ago, Beth Coker, she was making patchwork, but her arthritis has limited her, so she no longer makes patchwork. But I know there's other people out there in the community that maybe in the future they will be here to tell their stories too. And I just want to thank you, each and every one of you all, for y'all's attention and just being here tonight. But
our last presenter is someone I think everybody knows, especially if you're a Reservation Dogs fan. I've seen her several times on there. So let's give it up for Miss Cynthia Yerby.
Miss Jay, it's good to be here tonight. I'm really proud that I'm running this group. It's an honor. And I'm learning a lot tonight. I've learned a lot from these ladies. A lot of things they've said, But I've been making patchwork for about 20 years, maybe 16 years. And one of the reasons I started was I was arm wrestling and I needed to make money to travel. And somebody asked me if I could make them a shirt, asked me to make them a skirt, and I did that and got money to travel. But let me back up a little bit. My name is Cynthia Yerby, Harjo Yerby. My dad was Vivi, my mom was Bonnie Mae Walker Harjo, and I belong to the main clan, Tusky Harjo band. I'm a grandma. I got 4 grandkids. I've got 2 kids. And coming here tonight kind of gives me a break because all I hear all day is grandma, grandma, grandma. But I told her one time I changed my name. I'm not talking to you again until you tell me. So you guess my name. And that didn't work. Anyway, I want to tell you how I first started learning to sew. My mom used to sew a lot, and I used to watch her. And she wouldn't let me, and then she started letting me sew. And she kind of let me mess up make mistakes, and then I think she kind of got a kick out of that, me messing up. And then she did tell me though what I was doing wrong, so I learned it was kind of a do and learn experience. And basically that's what you've got to do with patchwork. It's just like, who was it saying that they couldn't get something to match up? And people don't realize how hard it is to make patchwork. You know, I'll sew something and it won't line up, and I don't know how many pieces just thrown to the side because I'm like, oh, I'm gonna mess with that right now. I'm gonna try something else. But patchwork does take a long time. And also you can tell, I can tell whose patchwork is whose by the color choices. You know, Sheila's patchwork, I can tell hers, and Sheila, you know, by the colors they use. And I like to use bright colors. I used to like to use the fire colors, bright colors like that. I like to use a lot of black and white. Let me see, what else? I wrote down some stuff so I wanted to touch on some things, but I don't have my glasses on here, so I can't see very reading. But some of the ladies that I learned from, I don't know if you remember Martha Stewart, and it's not the lady you see on TV, that's not the one, but they called her Mutt. Do you remember her? Yeah, she used to sew, and I remember sitting there as a child watching her, and her designs were so tiny, and she was tiny too, but she had the best patchwork I used to think, and I'd watch her, and I was so intrigued with that. And then I know Sheila, I used to really like her things, you know, and she was sewing before I started, so she was kind of like a hero for me. And then Patty Yeager, Patty was I consider a best friend. I mean, we'd sit and talk, and she'd always have those cookies, you know, you get at church. She'd always have them, and we'd sit around and talk, and we'd talk about different things, and we were the same age, and so we kind of knew when we grew up, we went through the same things, you know, and she knew a lot about culture. So she'd talk about her patchwork, but she always talked about our cultural things, you know, and she knew a lot. She was a great teacher. She knew about cooking traditional foods. You know, I never did know that you made blue bread out and you had to burn hulls. I didn't know that. And she showed me how to do that, you know. So she was, and then another lady that was inspirational to me was June Lee. She was so nice, sweet lady. She wouldn't hesitate to answer a question you had. She would try to show you how to do something. And you know, when you're just learning, it doesn't click up here. I gotta have a big old picture, you know, and just keep looking at it, you know. And then another one, like I said, was Sheila. I admired her work from afar, you know. But one of the reasons I started sewing more was I arm wrestled, and I went all over the world, had to make money for the airplane and things like that, and so I would sew for people and make money that way. But then I didn't really understand, but I was passing on our culture, you know, our patchwork. I think we have the most beautiful and colorful regalia in the world. You know, a Seminole's coming when you see those pretty colors, you know, and it just makes my heart sing when I see patchwork. And one thing I want to say about these girls, you guys have done the best job this year. I'm so proud of y'all. Yeah, give them a hand. Okay. I guess I'm going to tell you some of the stuff I won since everybody else has won something. I compete in some of the things that Sheila and Sheena compete in. I've won at the Artesian Festival, Artesian Art Festival, a few times. I've won at CSAM down in Tishomingo, which is sponsored by the Chickasaw Nation. I've won at Hushtola, which is down at Windstar. What is it, Thackerville. I've won at the Muskogee Art Market a few times. And it really is an honor to say that I'm Seminole. So,
I don't
if I can give us this way, thank you.
Yeah, I'm back. But I just wanted to let you know that if you are ever in Florida and you have some time to spare, call, make an appointment with the museum there at Big Cypress. They will let you go through their collections of patchwork. I spent 2 days going through drawers and drawers of patchwork, looking at things. They let me take pictures. They answered my questions. So if you're ever there to have a chance, take that opportunity, because they have some beautiful patchwork from way back when up to current things. And that was one of the best trips I ever went, and all I did was see those drawers come out. And they'll ask you which, period that you want to see. So I spent 2 days in there. I only get to see in the early 1800s patchwork. One of these days I'm gonna go back and start looking at some of the other stuff. But there's something I want to let you know. Even the Florida Seminoles are proud to share, and they will more than make, as long as you make an appointment, they will let you go back into their collections and let you look and research.
I would like to introduce Kamora Kozar from our Seminole Arts and Crafts Committee. She has been working really hard. She is also a patchwork artist. I see some of her work around. So I will give her the mic.
Hello everyone for coming out, and thank y'all. But out to all of our speakers.
Let's give another big hand.
Before we leave that time, so I'd like to give these to each of our presenters. I know it's not patchwork, but y'all know how long stuff takes. There we go. All right, and here's the end. I don't have much to say, but thank y'all for coming out.
Okay. Thank you, ladies, for the stories that y'all shared and everything. I know that it's really interesting. When I was growing up, I am 88 years old. I never saw patchwork until back in 1949. I was in Florida. And when I got there, it was at nighttime. There was, my aunt was married to, missionary sort of thing. So it was late at night, so this lady that lived just across the street came over and said, "Oh, welcome back. I sure miss you." And called my Aunt Janie, and so I met her then at that time. Well, the next day, when I got up and started looking around, we was on a church ground. And I see these young people, young ladies coming out. They had patchwork on. That's all they wore. I was so fascinated. And they lived in houses. The preacher had a house that he lived in. And they lived in Chiquis. The whole reservation was Chiquis. All the ladies wore patchwork, nothing but patchwork. And I often wonder why they had long cape on and everything. My aunt was telling me that in Big Cypress, when you go there, the mosquitoes are so bad. I mean, the mosquitoes are that big. So it's in they could practically
carry you off you that. But that was one of the reasons why they had knit cape over their skirts because of the mosquitoes, and the same way with Hollywood and Brighton and all the others. So anyway, you know, as time went on, I got to know the people and started, you know, asking about the questions and everything. And so the young girls wore the skirt, like I said, and I wore civilian clothes all my life, you know, and everything, because I knew nothing about patchwork. So it was really interesting. And so when we had when I started working for the Seminole tribe in the bingo business, when they had some function to go to, they wore patchwork and everything. And I was privileged to be able to wear it and be proud. But I knew at the same time that it was the Seminole tribe was traditional clothing. Because when I was growing up, my aunt wore a long skirt and had white apron on, or printed apron on. And I remember she would always have a hanky, and on the one end, she would roll the coin on one end and dollars on another end. And that's how I remember growing up, my aunt here in Oklahoma. So, as I said, I went there in 1949, so I got to see all the patchwork, how it was done. And I think one of the ladies mentioned Mud Stewart, they lived across the street. I knew her well. And then Andrew Harjo was there when I got there. And Andrew Harjo, the lady that taught him how to make patchwork, I knew her and everything. So one of the things that one of the elders was telling me that one time we were talking about patchwork, and she said, Lottie, you know, the patchwork came into being when there was a lady that had hand sewing machine, that's all they had. She was sitting on her back porch making the patchwork, not making patchwork, making her skirt, and it was just plain. And I have pictures where there was two ladies and a gentleman that came up here back in probably the 30s or early 30s or late 20s, whatever. And in the picture, they're sitting there, but there's no patchwork on their skirts. So I was talking to one of the ex-chiefs there, and we were talking about it, and he said that the patchwork came into me in the late 20s or early 30s. So anyway, the elderly lady was telling me, she said, you know, Lottie, this lady was looking and said, how can I change the look of my skirt? And she was looking around, and all of a sudden she saw a telephone pole, and the telephone pole has two posts that goes across. She saw that, and she said, I'm gonna try and make that. And she started from there, and the patchwork, I guess, was invented at that time. So, you know, and you know, we're proud of what we learned and everything like that. And I learned how to make skirts and everything, but I learned it in Florida, and the missionaries that were down there, they learned it from there and brought it back. So it has been changed here. Like somebody invented clan. They don't have that in Florida. I was asked about that, and I said, I don't know, because, you know, it was just invented. So, you know, we should go back to our tradition too, of the long skirts and the apron that are in such, you know, and they wore scarf around your head and everything, or at least that's how I grew up. You know, those of you may have, you know, been growing up with patchwork, but me, I didn't. So anyway, and I feel like I was asking one of the girls earlier, the princesses, has anyone taught them the history of it, how it came over here, how we started making patchwork? I think they need to know, because, you know, they stand up there and they're proud to say, this is my clan, this is that. And I know I was asked, like I said again, when are they talked about, they say clan, because they don't have a clan. They do have patchwork that's made, they make birds and different things, deer, but it's not a clan for them. So I just would like the girls, and I had invited the girls to come to my house, and I would love to tell them the history of it and show them some of the pictures where there was no patchwork, and then they invented patchwork. So I know people get upset with me when I say that, but I think that, we have to give credit where it's due. And I am proud that we know how to do it and be proud to wear it. And I tell the Florida Seminoles when I'm around them, I said, I'm glad I was able to learn. And so, Ms. Stewart was there, like I said, Raymond Hartzell was there, and we all learned, and we brought it back, and a few other people that were from here in Oklahoma. So, but anyway, thank you, ladies. I enjoyed it, and thank you.
What Lonnie was telling us is part of what tonight is about. We're starting to teach these young ladies and anybody else that wants to learn. When we have another event, maybe the word will get out that, hey, we're learning things about our history. We're learning things about where we come from. Let's go and attend. So again, I'd like to give, tell the Arts and Crafts Committee, thank you so much for starting this event for us. This is the first thing I've ever attended about patchwork, and I'm proud of it. Miss Cootie was right, Lottie, I'm sorry. I call you Lottie Cootie to me. But, she's right. It was in the 1920s when the horizontal patchwork first came about. You started seeing things on the dresses at that time. And again, this is some of the research you can learn if you have a chance to go down to Florida. In the 1880s is actually when the hand crank sewing machine came into use with the Florida Seminoles. And I'm one of these people, as I told you earlier, I say Pajitty. I'm Pajitty because Seminole is a collection of different tribes. We all are Seminole here, and we can all go and trace our history back to one of the tribes in Florida. So, in my opinion, I'm Seminole by association, but my true bloodline is Pajitty. And Pajitty, the Miccosukes, the Oconee, all of these people are now Seminole, and we all trace it back to our ancestors that was removed to Florida because the Florida Seminoles wasn't originally there. They came from Alabama, Georgia. We were all taken into the swamps when we were fighting. Technically, the Oklahoma Seminoles are still at war with the United States of America. Isn't that right, Chief? Is he still here?
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, we're still at war with them. If you go to Washington, D.C., to the statue of Iwo Jima, you will see the wars that the Marines fought, and up on the top is the Seminole Wars. So we have a deep-rooted history, and it's so proud to see that it's carrying on today with this event and everybody learning about patchwork. Listening to everybody here, I've learned things. And I tell you what, I know there's people in this audience that makes patchwork. I've seen their beautiful patchwork. But one of the ladies that I really admire was Patty Yeager because she was so willing to teach. And everybody that has talked up here talked about her. So Stephanie, you're very proud. Thank you.
Do we have anybody in the audience that does patchwork? Kamora does patchwork. In fact, Desiree has an outfit that Kamora made for her. So she likes the sparkle and the bling. So Desiree, stand up and show us your patchwork.
Come up here.
Oh, come up here.
Jackie's one of the words too.
Where is Jackie?
I don't know.
She's right there. She was junior miss.
Let's see.
Senior out in China.
Okay. And this is the what, man on horseback? That one I don't know.
Let me see. What is it they have? The panther eye.
Alligator.
Panther eye and alligator eye and man on horseback. This is like an authority. She is on the council, so. All right, thank you. Kamora. Jamie, I have never met you. You are an up-and-coming patchwork artist. Just you wanna say hi?
Hi. I learned from, or my grandma, she passed away, man who wise, but I was kind of similar to what everyone said, I looked at her skirts and I studied those, so that's how I learned. But then my aunt lost my uncle and through cardio, so all of those people have passed on before I started. But I gather inspiration from them, and of course everyone else who's up there talking. So there's a lot of it is really important to continue and to talk about and to have this recorded as well. So,
What band are you?
I'm a newcomer band, Heavy Jiggy. All right, Bear fan.
All right, thank you, yes.
I'm sorry, hi, my name is Dana Miller. I don't make patchwork, but I just want to say Mado to the culture keepers who are willing to teach the young ones to do it, because I'll tell you, I have a really pretty jacket made by Patty. I won it in the traditional dress contest, I don't even know, 5-6 years ago, maybe 7. And I'll tell you, there's no, I don't look at that jacket, it's a piece of art for sure. But what I look at that jacket as and what I wear it as is armor. I found myself last fall, in the work that I do, I go to a lot of these meetings, and there's all these, fancy people there, right? And they're all so much smarter than me. And there's doctors and lawyers and legislators. And I go in there, and all I know is that I want to just defend and take care of my people when I walk in that room, but I don't really know exactly how to do it. So I'm looking for inspiration, but most of all, I'm looking for armor. And when I put that jacket on, and I took it specifically with me to a meeting in DC, I walked in the room, and I tell you, my shoulders went back and my chest went up, because I knew, and they knew, that I was Seminole, and I am not to be messed with. And that patchwork showed them that. So not only can we easily identify ourselves, but other people can identify ourselves. But I just want to say thank you for that, because I think what you're doing is creating armor for us. When we're in those situations where we have to defend ourselves, we have to defend the other Seminoles and our families and our community. I'll tell you, when I put that patchwork on, I don't know if anybody else feels like that, I feel just that much more Seminole. And when I'm that much more Seminole, you better watch out. Right? Empowered. That's right.
Jaylee Lowe is going to be our one of our cultural demonstrators. So if you want to see her patchwork, y'all can see her at Nation Days. It'll be on Saturday from 12 to 4.
Once again, I want to thank everyone for being here this evening, and of course the presenters. One more time, let them know you appreciate it. Sharing your decision. And I know there was no men on the panel, but men can do patchwork too. And one of our young textile artists and historian in his own right, Mr. Jake Tiger, is back in the back. And there was a transition in a lot of presentations here this evening. And of course, with Lottie's comment, we know that the applique work is much older in association with the Seminole work on our clothing from the 1800s. So you had a lot of men that done such great work too over the years. Jimmy O'Toole, he was my neighbor for several years when I lived there on the Hollywood Reservation, and the late Jay McGirt. Jay McGirt is one of the great textile artists of the Seminole and Muskogee Creek lineage as well. Do you remember Jay?
Well, I was going to tell you, our assistant chief, Brian Palmer, makes patchwork.
Brian Palmer? Yeah, I hadn't seen some of his work. He needs to bring it on out. Yeah. All right. But with Dana saying what she did, I'm going to share this story, and I'm going to close us out here this evening. When I was the assistant chief, the citizen man Potawatomi was going through a lot in the city of Shawnee with taxation. They were getting a lot of slack from the city, and it was driven by the state at that time. And I know they were asking for resolutions from tribes. They were asking for assistance, not monetarily. They weren't asking for money. They were just asking for support. So what they call the United Tribes today, it was under a different acronym at that time. Wallace Coffey was the chairman, which was the Comanche. He was a Comanche chairman as well with the Comanche tribe. And remember the Crow and Dunlop, who was Mike McBride, was our Attorney General. He worked also for the Comanche, still does to this day actually. But what happened is we knew that, and some of our grassroots people were sharing that with me, and we brought it to the tribal council that, you know, the Potawatomis are asking for support, and someone said, well, we ought to give them that support, and I thought as assistant chief at that time that we ought to, because there's times we need support as well. So the council, of course, listened to Mr. Coffey as Mike McBride called him, and he didn't know he was in the middle of a Seminole council meeting. Wallace Coffey did, and he said, McBride, boy, what you doing today? That's what he said to him. He said, oh, I'm in the middle of Seminole council. Oh, okay. Yeah, Attorney McBride, what are you doing today? But it was kind of hilarious and kind of funny. He said, well, the Seminoles are meeting and they want to be able to, cast their support for the Potawatomis. So what happened at that time is Chief Harjo, he said, Lewis, you go to that meeting and you take 2 people with you. And I'm sorry Dana left because her daddy was one of those men that I said, I'm going to take you. I said, I want to take 2 mouthpieces, people that could talk well, in front of a crowd. Wayne Shaw and those 2 and myself, we went to that meeting and everyone wore a little bit of their colors. Some of our people say you should wear something about yourself, whether it's some big work or maybe, something that you wear when you go out in that type of atmosphere. And so we all walk in and Wallace, everybody's chatter at a big meeting like this, it's, probably about 4 or 5 times as many people there as that's here tonight. And everybody's just making the chatter. And all of a sudden, Chairman Coffey, he waves the crowd to silence. And he says, the Seminoles are here. And I thought, here comes the Indian joke, I just knew it was coming. And this is what he said, the next word out of his mouth. Because there was a battle going on with the Potawatomis. He said, the fight can now begin. He's talking about your ancestors. He's talking about my ancestors. That's what he was talking and referring to. And I'll tell you what, it wasn't because of who I was that he was talking about that way, that day. But he said, I want them to be the first one to speak at this meeting today. And we were caught by surprise, but I took 2 folks that had no problem speaking, that's for sure. And we had a good time there. But a lot of tribes do respect the Seminole people, our heritage, and our defiant history as a people to be who we are. So thank you for coming here and being here with us this evening.